Hello, I'm Catherine Tate. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this DVD. I support the Laura Crane Trust because I believe in the wonderful work that they do and in the incredible difference that they make. Please join us. Be bothered. I am.
They did scans and tests and they found a lump low down, and the reaction was, well, it can't be ovarian cancer because it doesn't happen in people this young.
So I then said to Pam, you've got absolutely wrong. It can't be cancer. But unfortunately, once we went through those doors, there was no coming back. It was.
It was 4 days later they told us.
They thought it was probably a cyst or something like that. So I went back 3 weeks later, and it had gotten larger. So they admitted me to hospital and they sent me for an ultrasound scan. I was really nervous when I went. The ultrasound scan showed nothing. It suggested it was a cyst. They didn't do any further tests, and I was happy with that, I think, for a bit. I went away again for a week or 2 weeks and it was still getting bigger. It was uncomfortable. I phoned the GP, I said, look, I really, really want a biopsy. This is something that I'm losing sleep over now. So they admitted me in, they did a biopsy, at which point they told me I had breast cancer.
I went to the doctors, got treated for migraines, then I went to opticians and he sent me straight on to casualty.
Then I went to the doctor and then he said it was an ear infection, and then we went back in a week to have some blood tests, and then I was diagnosed with AML on Friday 6th.
Medulloblastoma, brain tumour.
When they told me, I couldn't believe it. I was really, really, really horrified. That's speechless. I was just speechless.
Found that what she actually had was 4 kinds of cancer, 3 of them very dangerous.
Well, I couldn't see my friends, I couldn't go to school, I was just in hospital all the time.
Because you think, oh gosh, this does happen, and we're part of it now.
I didn't think for a minute it could happen to someone my age. I should have been starting college.
Research into teenage cancer is an area which has been a bit neglected by some of the larger research charities because it's uncommon. And so we now realise that there are special needs and special situations for teenagers with cancer, and specifically supporting research in that area I think is immensely helpful. Teenagers get all sorts of cancer just like adults do, but in general, because we're aiming for cure in the treatment of teenagers with cancer, the treatment itself tends to be much more intensive. So people often have the impression that they have particularly aggressive cancers. In fact, if anything, it's the treatment which needs to be aggressive because we have such a high expectation that we'll cure a big proportion of teenagers with cancer. The National Health Service is very good at delivering treatment and care for teenagers, as it is for other groups with cancer. However, the amount of research which it supports into this area is much less, and it's for that reason that funding research through charities is so very important. I think it is very helpful to have charities such as the Laura Crane Trust, which do specialise into research in teenage cancer, because this is a relatively neglected area, and by concentrating their funding in this particular area, we can make progress in something where perhaps we have less information and there are particular needs for teenagers with cancer and particular aspects of the cancers which teenagers get that up until now haven't been researched as well as they should have been.
Just take one day at a time, and while she's well, just celebrate that she's well. Because when you've been rock bottom and she's really, really ill, then when they're well, you're just so grateful.
So difficult to accept, but you've got to accept it.
Yeah, I was just like, how have I got it? Because adults get it. I didn't think children could get it.
Any mother just wants to protect her baby. She wants nothing bad to happen to her baby. And there was my daughter, which it's never yours. My daughter was there, and they were saying she had cancer. And it just blows your mind that day that she might not be with us in 10 years. But I guess you live on hope and you think, well, if she's with us for 10 years, who knows where they might have got to in 10 years.
I knew straight away it was going to be really, really tough.
Feeling tired, sickness, pains in the legs.
She never told me half of what she was going through.
And then the next day I had to set about telling my friends, which was, I think, the hardest thing I'd ever had to do. Some thought I was joking and literally said, "You're joking." I said, "No, it wouldn't be a very funny joke, would it?" No one really could believe it because, again, they hadn't heard of anyone my age having it either.
They're going through so many changes anyway, just going from being a child to being an adult. There's so much going on in their lives.
On my second treatment I met a girl who was my age. She hadn't had any chemotherapy yet, and at this point I'd already lost my hair. It was nice being able to support someone who, and knowing that you'll be able to get that sort of support back in turn. So we started emailing each other straight away.
We did find that Claire spent a lot of time on the children's thing, but there was always a lot of teenagers still on the children's ward because sometimes there weren't enough beds. Apparently, I think there's only 6 beds on the teenage bit. So she did mix with the teenagers, and they had good fun together. Really, when they were well, they'd have a good laugh.
This will be a place to go and be alive again, with people of the same age that understand your feelings, both emotional and physical.
Well, I had long blonde hair ever since I was sort of 13, 14, you know, and it was a huge part of my identity. I really liked it. I was always quite confident about my appearance, and then I found out I was going to lose all my hair, and I did think about the other really serious issues, but the most pertinent one for me that day was I'm going to lose my hair, I'm going to lose my eyelashes.
The day that Laura died, I just thought, apart from all the sorrow and everything else I was feeling, I thought about the waste of such a young life when you're on the verge of everything you've always been looking forward to and you have such a promising future ahead of you. To be nipped in the bud like that was just so cruel. And I think it's hard enough being a teenager without having to face a life-threatening disease when you're old enough to understand what it can mean. It has 2 strands. The first one, which we feel is definitely the most important, is research, because when the answers come, other things fade away. Most of our money does go to research specifically into cancer in 13 to 25s, where cancer is different. Second strand is to support teenagers who are actually going through it. Typical projects are, we funded an activities coordinator, a new position at St James's, which ran with our funding for 3 years in the hope that then it would be seen as such a vital role that it would continue. It has been accepted as a very vital role, and I'm happy to say that while we've finished, it is still there. That was something that St James asked if we would do, and we were only too happy to help. We also gave £6,000 to buy recreational equipment such as musical instruments, art materials, DVDs, laptops, PlayStations, anything to lighten the days and help them to forget, at least for some of the time, why they're there. Also, as you'll see in the video, this is a really nice environment, and we did contribute £20,000 towards the provision of this unit at Weston Park Hospital. Because the charity's all about young people, we ask young people to do all they can to help us, and we get support from schools all over the country, colleges, university rags and other youth organisations, and we really do encourage that. The vast majority of it, strangely enough, comes from outside, from people all over the UK and locally who are happy to support us, who are behind us all the way. And that's a lot of money that's raised each year. We do also raise money in lots of other ways, but one that we would like to increase is through corporate support, and I'd be very happy to speak to anybody who'd like to contact us. She also said, "You must never say why me, you must always say why not me." It's amazing, really.